So today we're going to attempt to make some modeling clay with materials that we have around the kitchen. There's a lot of different ways that you can make different kinds of clay, whether it's air drying clay or clay that you bake, clay that you would paint and put like, varnish on. So if you look on YouTube for any of those videos, you can do this in whatever sort of way that you want. I chose this one because it was how to like make some modeling clay. Now if you have modeling clay, you can make the characters for your movie set out of that. But I mean, I don't have any around the house. So it's just sort of a fun thing to make. And I could have just posted the video on it, but I don't know, I just kind of feel like that's cheating in some way. And also, if I don't go through it in the process myself, I feel like I'm not going to see like all the troubleshooting issues that you folks might have. So, in between my expertise and then my 5-year-old kind of trying to do it too, I hope that like it kind of meets in the middle ground of like that we can figure out how to do this together. I am a little concerned whenever we use things like flour or cornstarch because I'm a practical person, and even in making art pieces in a time when you might be worried about supplies, and I know people are really into baking bread and sometimes flour is hard to come by, that I am a little like reluctant to give like recipes that involve stuff that you could be consuming. But if you do have some flour, to spare, I guess you could try it. I'm going to put the recipe that I saw in half to make a little bit less of our clay, but we'll see how this works. It's the first time I'm doing it too, so we're going to learn together. Okay, our recipe calls for wheat flour, which I did not have, so we'll see what happens when you use regular flour. Cornstarch, white glue, some hand cream, I'm just using lotion, and it asks for seed oil. I'm just using sesame oil. I'm going to assume because sesames are seeds that works. I would assume that vegetable oil would work too, we don't know, so we can find out. And the recipe I was looking at was all in grams, and so I converted it to cups and tablespoons, and I also am going to do it in half just so we're not making so much, especially when this is our test run. So we'll see how all this works, and I have some food coloring too. Alright, so the first thing is that we have half a cup of flour. So I'm putting my flour in there, and I'm going to mix it with, I guess they were asking for white glue, about, we need about 1/4 of a cup. Now I was kind of nervous to put an entire, to use white glue in any of my measuring things, so what I did was I measured out a little medicine container, and I filled it with water, and I filled it in twice, and about 2 of these medicine containers is 1/4 of a cup. So I'm going to take my white glue, which is just Elmer's, and I'm wondering if we put a little bit of oil in the bottom of it, if it wouldn't stick so much. Let's see. That probably would work. So we're going to fill this up twice. I know when I make salad dressings that require honey, I always put the oil in first before I put the honey so that it slides off, and I'm thinking that that might be the better approach here. But then I don't have to worry about cleaning this little medicine cup because I'll just throw it away.
Well, what if you use it again?
Well, you just can't get sick ever again. No more Delsum for you. So making sure that we have clean hands, we're going to start kneading this together. I don't know what the appropriate consistency is really supposed to be at this point, but if, making dough tells me anything, it seemed like it needed a little bit more glue. Okay, now at this point we're going to put in the cornstarch and lotion and the oil. Let's move on to putting cornstarch, which is a thickener. And the recipe was calling for what converts to 1/3 of a cup of cornstarch, so I just kind of did half of a little measuring cup of 1/3 of a cup, or rather 1.666 cups. And now we need to have how much cornstarch? We put the cornstarch in. The lotion or hand cream is 1 tablespoon, so we're doing half a tablespoon, which is about half of this. Let's see. Oops. It's not quite half, but I'm going to assume that a lot won't come out. And then we need half of our seed oil. Okay. Now we're supposed to knead this together for 15 minutes. And every 3 minutes we're supposed to put oil or lotion on our hands, presumably so that it doesn't stick to us. And I wonder if it needs more lotion too, because I'm not using hand cream, it's just lotion, so I'm just kind of feeling that it needs a different consistency. The proper way to wedge is to use these, the end of your palms, and you push down, pull it up, turn it 3/4, and then you go like that. But it's not quite at the consistency I want it to be. I'm supposed to be adding oil to my hands as I go. What fun we're having, huh?
Yeah, what fun.
Yeah, what fun.
Isn't fun.
It isn't fun. Every 3 minutes of kneading, should add some of the hand cream or oil to your hands. Keeps it from sticking to your hands and helps work into our dough. And then if it gets too oily, I would think that you can add a little bit more of the flour and cornstarch. The glue, as I'm doing this and kind of figuring out the chemistry, is probably helping to hold everything together, much in the same way that butter does when you're making biscuits. I think I got a little bit too oily there, so. How long ago was that video that we made the chalk paint?
I don't know.
What would you guess? Yeah, we're not eating this. We might as well clean up the rest. Well, you know what? We're supposed to add a few drops of vinegar. I wonder if the vinegar is to preserve the flour. Chemistry and art and cooking.
Oh my God.
All together, it's so fun. Being with your family 24/7. What is bad about that? Nothing. It's so great to be stuck in the house with these people. Making stuff together.
Oh my God. That's so boring song.
God's on my side, buddy. Just remember that. So supposedly this is going to remain malleable. You can keep it preserved in plastic wrap as long as you keep all the air out. This will stay kind of indefinitely, I assume, in the fridge. But for right now, we're going to divide it up and we're going to color it. Yeah. I think I'm going to put a little bit aside just for some earth tones. My hands are nice and moisturized from all that seed oil and hand cream. Whenever I do things with dye, I'm going to use some disposable gloves, especially when I'm painting. Not because this is toxic or anything, but just, you know, to keep my hands from being stained. But just because we don't want to waste any gloves, I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to embrace having stained hands. Are your hands clean, Tabby?
Very much.
Okay. Do you want to do the green?
Oh.
There
Getting
you go.
dirty now.
Oops. Go ahead. So you want to knead it together.
Knead it like this?
Yep.
I didn't know that this felt like that.
I think I should probably put a little bit more cornstarch in. Earth tones hides the dirt. So using the food coloring, we got a pretty good array of modeling clay colors here. And what I found is that the measurements, I don't think they had to be that exact. It's sort of going with feel. If it's too wet, you want to add more cornstarch. If it's not sticking together, a little bit more glue. If it's too dry, having some of the oil. I found that putting the oil on my hands pretty frequently helped in working it into the clay. But when I washed my hands between using the food color, I didn't dry them well enough, and the water kind of made it sort of sticky. So, but it could be reworked by throwing more flour and cornstarch in. So it's kind of like a going by feel. I think the vinegar's in there just to help to preserve it. And as long as the cellophane is wrapped around it without any air getting in, it should stay in this, you know, workable, moldable consistency. But I'm going to let it stay for a day. I'm going to try some in the fridge, some outside, and just to see what works better. Very little food coloring drops, and just using color theory to mix all of your colors. I also wish I had saved a chunk of just the uncolored so that I could work it into the colors that I wanted to lighten up. So I might suggest doing that as well. But we'll make our figure with it tomorrow and see how it holds up. Do your best not to make too much of a mess and clean up any mess that you do make. So. So I ended up having the modeling clay in the refrigerator overnight, and because it was wrapped up, it seemed like it hadn't changed its consistency at all. It was really, really easy to work with. I think I probably went a little bit overboard with the oil because it was really hard to keep his structure. He's supposed to just be sitting there kind of contemplatively having a cup of coffee, but he just kept slumping over looking really depressed.
But what I did to kind of combat that is I put a toothpick through his back like it was a spine, which you could also do if you had like really high gauge wire around, or undid a paper clip and you could have some wire underneath, or just, you know, not go so heavy on the oil like I did. Mixing together some of the clays, this seemed to work better than even modeling clays that you buy at the store. I was pleased with it. And one thing you should do when you are modeling your character is if you have like a plate to put it on or something circular where you can kind of be spinning it, because as you work on just one side, sometimes the other side kind of falls off, and you know, working in sculpture in the round needs you to do that. As far as using modeling or clay tools, you probably don't have these around, but you can improvise with plastic knives, forks, toothpicks, anything to go in there and get some of the details. Now our final project is just to take a picture of this, and I've put a spotlight on it, which kind of helps with the dramatic lighting. You could also use a desk lamp if you have a light source somewhere. Put your flash on your phone. Sometimes that can make a difference if you have a black background behind it. And if you want to go forward and turn this into stop motion, I'll send some resources out for how to do that, but it's not required at all. We've just now made a two-dimensional art piece into a three-dimensional movie set. I also needed some more props, sort of like scenery, because he's sitting on, you can't really tell in the painting what he's sitting on, whether it's a rock or just like a camp chair. And so I used net design with some, like a back of a cereal box or food box, and turned it into just a little box for him to sit on. And if you want more demonstrations on how to use net design into making different shapes of things in your scenery, you can watch the 8th grade modular video or even the 7th grade city interior video. They all use taking the net design of things flat and scoring them with the scissors, like really crisp halfway folds, to turn them into three-dimensional things. You're welcome to do that if you need to have interactive scenery in your piece. Otherwise, the sort of flat kind of stagecraft approach to it is fine as well. This was really fun to do, and I actually kind of preferred it to the store-bought modeling clay, so maybe we'll be making our own clay from now on. So have fun with it and send me a picture.